Alright, welcome to this little tutorial that I'm going to be doing. Got a Colony Freecoaster. Most of them, these Freecoaster hubs work on a KHE kind of internal operation system. I'll show you a little bit of that later. But I've come back to some random slippage where the pedals are turning a bit too far in the gap. And it's random, so sometimes there will be a gap, sometimes there won't be a gap. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of this investigation I've got, and I'm going to replace new axle and new clutch. So hopefully you get something out of this. Alright, so we've got the wheel out. What we want to do now is, because we're also going to be replacing the axle, we want to take all the pieces off it. But I'll just show you how to pull apart your Freecoaster if you need to do any maintenance and so on. So first thing is, easiest method is just to take an Allen key, pop it in either of the axles. Hopefully your axles have Allen key slots. This is a 6mm. Take a spanner. We're just going to use a crescent wrench and just undo. Okay, so now this is coming undone on this side. We're going to get a bit of rag ready so that we can put that down as it comes out. Actually, I'll use this white one because it will show up a bit easier. We don't need a big piece. Okay, so let's take this out of here. Okay, so on this side here you've got just the cone washer, okay, or cone nut I should say. Then you've got a little washer. I just use a little flat driver to pry. I'll just show you that side. Come over here. There we go. There we go. And there we go. We've got a bit of light as well. Alright, so we just take this one off on this side. Get a shot anyway. Alright, so we're just going to try to prise that off. There we go. Alright, so that's that there. We'll get rid of that one. We don't need this big driver. And then we should be able to just peel the driver out. And now the driver comes out, just unthreaded out of the clutch, and that's the driver. Okay, and there you can see it pretty good there. You can see inside it's got two bearings. Don't know if you can capture that in there. It's got two lots of bearings in there, two bearings on the driver. Okay, so then with that done, what we have to do now is just tap the axle out. My hands are made of steel. Okay, and then that axle comes out, and we're just going to try to bring the clutch out with it as well. There we go. And that's your assembly of your internals. Check the other YouTube in regards with slack on the Freecoaster if you want more information. But basically how it works is you're pedaling, pedal, 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 come forward. See how that little thing moves over? That's your clutch. That moves over into the hub, jams inside the hub and makes it go forward. When you stop pedaling or if it rolls, see how it moves backwards again? You pedal forward, engage, gives you motion to go forward, pedal backwards, it comes out. Over here is your slack. These are the washers that take up the slack. So the further this is over this way, the more slack you've got, the more this is going to rotate before your clutch engages. Now the problem we have at the moment is we got this random slippage going on. Now that's because in the past I fixed it up, but you have these little retainers or retention things. See how these things here, where are they? I'm just trying to get a good view on the camera. Okay, so these things here, this one and this one, hold the clutch so the clutch doesn't spin. It's got a bit of tension behind it, so it kind of doesn't want to move. When this goes on, if that tension there isn't tight enough, this just keeps moving around until it decides to go, yep, sweet, we're ready to go, engage, and that's where random slippage. So these ones here I've had turned out to give a good bit of tension on there, but you can see it's kind of, where is it? There it is. You can see it's worn out. See, it's kind of worn out. So we're going to replace the axle. Okay, put a new axle in. You can see that one there is worn out as well. See how that ball bearing isn't that high? Okay, but if we have a look at the new axle, pop, open up, see these ball bearings are nice and high. Where are they? There we go. See these ball bearings are nice and high. See the difference with that compared to that. Alright, so without that little bit of tension, the clutch just wants to keep on turning and doesn't engage. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't, and that's where you get random slippage. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all this off here, alright, and replace the axle. Taking that off, pretty simple. Allen key in here like this, and then just get another spanner. This one's a little bit bigger. We'll take the, depends if you've got a hub guard or just a normal sort of flange, locking nut, whatever you have got there. So we'll just undo that. Okay, we'll spin that one off. Now, I did have some plastic gloves at one stage, but used them all up when I was spray painting, you know, out in the streets, racking cans and everything. So if you are doing this stuff, wear some plastic gloves. It'll save your hands and having to clean up afterwards. Alright, so then that's off. Voila. Now, it wasn't that long ago I actually changed the driver on this hub, so, and the bearings as well. So the only thing that haven't changed in the last 3-4 years maybe I've run this hub is the axle. So money well spent, or axle and clutch. Alright, so that's, we're going to remove the bearings off there. How are we going to do that? Let's have a look. We'll grab a little hammer out. Alright, grab a hammer out. Trusty little hammer, here we are. We'll just give him a little bit of a tap. Oh yeah, she's coming off. Almost there. Right, we should be able to just, almost there, almost there. There we go. See, I was only tapping very, very lightly as well. Okay, so that's the bearing come off. Now these are your spacers for your gap. Alright, when I was in Japan, one of these spacers dropped down into this position here. So when the bearing went back on, I had to pull it apart when I was in Japan because the clutch was grabbing. And so when I put the bearing, it slipped down like that. So just bear in mind, keep that, making sure all these are stacked up. We'll touch on that again soon. So we now have some grease, a little bit of grease here. So I've had this for some time. I mean, I know it's the word, have you heard? It's got groove, it's got meaning. It's the time and the place, it's the motion. Right, so we've got the new clutch here. Yeah, well, let's just do a comparison of the new clutch and the old clutch. See, the old clutch has got a bit of wear just around on here. Okay, new clutch obviously shouldn't have that because it's new. But you can see that's the bit where it's sort of jamming in the hub. And if you have a look carefully, I don't know if it'll show up on here. See how these sort of like flattened out? So they have lost their sort of like the grip. Whereas these are sort of still pretty sharp, the new ones. Yeah. There's like that. And you can see that. Okay. So what we're going to do is just put some grease. Now, most important with free coasters is minimal grease is what you want to be running. All right, minimal grease. You don't want the thing lathered up with heaps and heaps of grease on it. Okay, because that ain't going to work. Okay, so we've got that. That's the slack in there. Now, if you want to adjust your slack, more slack, you just take them off and have them like that. Or you can even just turn the hat round. This is what they call the hat washer. You can turn that round, but I'm pretty happy how that amount of slack I have, which is pretty good. If you have a bit too, if it's not enough slack, it can be a bit too direct. So your pedals may engage quite quickly. Your pedals may engage quite quickly if you're rolling backwards, or with the slightest bit of pressure on them. So at the moment, what I've got on this hub, I'm pretty happy with that gappage. Now you can see I'm just putting some grease on the inside of that, so we can get it onto the axle. Okay, remember what I was saying about this washer, don't let it sit down on here. So that's going to come over there. Boom. Okay, checking to make sure that it's all seated through there, all seated up through there pretty well. Okay, now next we can put the hub guard back on. Okay, we'll chuck a bit of grease on the threads though, because it's a new axle. Now remember, this is aluminium and this is steel. And aluminium and steel don't like each other. Yeah, they're not fans. They don't get on. They're not happy being next to each other. Okay, so we chuck a bit of grease in there, which separates the two. So when it comes time to undo it, you can actually undo it. What ends up happening, grease, aluminium and steel have they'll actually chemically weld together. So sometimes they find it hard to pull apart. Stems are a fine example of that. Sometimes when you're undoing the bolts, you'll hear a little bit of a crack, and you can smell this weird smell. It's not your dad farting. Sometimes that does happen though. And it's just a chemical release. Alright, so we now got that one in. We'll do that one up. Pretty good and tight. Making sure that that washer didn't get stuck in here. There we go, making sure that washer didn't get stuck in here. Good. Well done. Right. So then we'll put the new clutch on. New clutch. Now we want a little bit of grease, not too much, right? Because too much grease, it just doesn't function very well. So you can see how much grease I just put in there like that. Just rubbed a little bit in there, but then that's also going to move its way onto the thread as well. So thread of the clutch. Okay, there we go. So that's pretty good. And remember, the grease is going to move around inside your hub a bit as well. So there's not, I mean, it's just a smear, but then that grease is also going to work these ball bearings as well. Okay, so now over a period of time, I'll probably have to pull this hub apart and just adjust these out a little bit. Okay, so where are we? Whoop, there we go. So what we'll do is we'll adjust these out to keep a bit more tension on the clutch. And you can hear it click. That's good. Okay, and it's got a bit of tension behind it. Okay, all right. So then we're going to then place that back in to the hub. Just got to check the hub over and stuff. Obviously, I've just checked the flanges to see if there's any cracks in there. I mean, that looking all right. Now, I don't know if you can see in here, that silver ring. You just see there where my finger is. That silver ring there is what the clutch grabs hold of. Alright, now there's a little bit of grease on that. You don't want too much. Alright, we're just going to put like that much back in there. Alright, just to help it so that the clutch doesn't stick when it's moving. Alright, a bit of grease onto the thread here. Alright, we'll chuck another little bit of grease on that. You can see how much grease I'm using. It's already got a bit of grease on it already, so. Alright, so we go this way in. So that goes, that's all connected. Take note. Okay. We'll just put a bit of grease on this bit where the clutch of the driver's going to sit on the bearings. So just a bit of grease on there. Alright. In it goes. Give it a bit of a tap. Right, looks like she's seated in pretty good. Then we take the driver, okay, and the driver's going to go in. Perfect. There it is. Alright, now this washer here, very important. This is beveled on one side. Let's see if we can capture that. Okay, so see how we've got, it's flat this side, it's flat, this side is flat, but this side it's beveled. See how it goes up a little bit like this. Very important, that beveled edge bit goes against here, alright? So it doesn't rub on the outside of the driver. It'll hit this silver bit of the bearing, but it won't hit the outside of the driver. So just double check you're doing that when you're putting your things together. Little serration bits, chuck on the outside as well. Alright, and we'll do that up. Alright, grab the spanner, Allen key into the axle, spanner to do the nut up, and we're pretty much done. So it didn't take that long at all. Pretty much about the length of this video is how long it took to do what needs to get done. Just make sure that's nice and snug. Good. Okay. Rolling, forwards, backwards. Okay, so now and then this should pedal forwards. Alright. That should free coast, so back pedal. Pedal forward. Back pedal. Actually, you can see the sprocket moving a little bit there. That's the slack. So pedal forward. Now that's ready to engage. It's got motion behind it. See? Them little washers that we talked about before that are inside there on this side, that controls that much slack, whether or not you want more slack or not. Some flatland riders have a lot more slack because they can put less or more pressure on their pedals during certain tricks, but I'm a minimal slack kind of guy. Alright, well, I guess that brings to the end of replacing the Freecoaster axle. So I don't know, you could like, subscribe, comment, and take a photo of these stickers, and then maybe get your uncle to print them out at the printer, and then you can have some free stickers as well. Alright, sweet. Yeah, that's about it. oh, we're going to put the wheel back on. But if you don't know how to put your wheel back in, maybe you should, I don't know, see if your uncle can help you. Or look up another YouTube video tutorial on how to put a back wheel back into your bike. And if you're not too sure how to do that, maybe you should really learn before you learn any tricks.